Hello, welcome to another episode of Mike Sports. I'm your host, Eric, joined as always by my co-host, Landry. Landry, how you doing tonight?
Lots to talk about, for sure.
It's been a while. We took a little hiatus for the holidays, and which I hope you had a wonderful holiday. I know I had a great holiday.
I did. I had a great holiday. I shaved.
Nice.
I made some vast changes. As everybody can tell who watch our channel, I moved my head to the other side of Eric's head. So we're going into 2020 swinging.
I asked for a razor for Christmas, and I got a lump of coal instead. So I'm thinking Santa thought I was bad.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's still holding a grudge from when the Philadelphia fans threw snowballs at him. I don't know.
That's true.
No.
So what game we going into first here? Let's discuss last week.
I figure
You want to get a couple out of the way?
Yeah, sure. You know what? There's a couple games that I had some. Let's just say I had some issue with some of the calls or non-calls.
Okay.
But I actually want to start with the one that I think is the bigger. I don't want to say bigger deal, but I think maybe the worst offense as far as not abiding by the rules of the game, and that is in the Texans-Bills game.
Okay.
And the start of the second half, I'm curious as to your and I's take on this. I personally think that kickoff should not DeAndre Carter seemed like he was not coming out, but he didn't take a knee. He didn't, and that's
you're talking about the fair catch wave, the controversy,
right? They don't have fair catch in the NFL.
Yeah.
On the kickoff anyway,
right?
Like in college. And so, look, do I think he meant to deceive anybody? Was there meant to be any trickery? No, of course not. Yeah. But he didn't abide by the rule of taking the knee, and the announcers were talking about, well, common sense prevailed. Okay, well, you think that he definitely was going to take a knee? And sure, he probably was going to. He meant to, but he didn't do it. And so, to me, that should have been a touchdown for the Bills.
I'm somewhere in between. I really think this really would have gone by what officiating crew do you want to go by? And
that's a sad part.
Yeah, and I do think, for the record, I do think fair catch should be a part of kickoffs in the NFL.
Oh, I'm fine with adopting that rule.
If there was, there is obviously in punts. So I kind of look at it like, if you were really giving the signal that you're giving yourself up, your elbow should almost be your ear level. Like, this dude's like down here, like barely could see it. I thought that was controversial. But when he kind of threw the ball away, I thought that was kind of like I'm giving myself up, like practically. But from a technical standpoint, should have been a Bills TD. So,
because think about it now, based on what happened there, right. And not do I really think this is going to happen at least anytime soon? No. But a team could theoretically, teams are always trying to find different trick plays, ways to generate a spark. Guy catches the football, gives a signal to his guys, as they say, his blockers in front. He's not coming out. And then takes the ball and starts to slowly trot like he's going to flip the ball to the official, and then takes off running and maybe gets it and could get a big gain out of it.
Yeah.
It's a deception thing.
I think
now you've established to the rest of the players, hey, on the kickoff team, hey, when he does that, we can stop because no matter what we do, it's a touchback. So.
Right, because I think we've crossed into that area where are we going by the rule or are we going by intent? Because one is a judgmental call and one is, the rule already exists. There's nothing to think about. So I'm with you.
I'm always of the opinion, take any controversy out of the referee's hands.
Yeah.
And say,
I don't know. First of all, I'm a little biased. Obviously, being in Houston, I wanted the Texans to win. But, if I'm taking all the bias out of it, I can certainly see your point. I think it could be argued. And I think that's why the refs sat there for so long. But, and ultimately, obviously, the call came from New York at the end. But
right.
Anytime two sets of officials look at it and come to the same conclusion, I'm going to lean on the side of education from them. They must have saw something that I didn't, or I thought it should have been a TD for the Bills. Mm-hmm. They obviously saw something in slow-mo that made them feel different. So
I would like something to come down from the NFL to say, okay, you know what, we gave you guys, we gave the kickoff return team the benefit of the doubt here, but in the future, take a knee.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. In the future, if you don't take a knee, that sometimes it only takes one example to get it to where everybody needs to know it a little more clear. And I think this is just one of those. I do think that the Texans were the better team.
And look, the momentum changed, and whether or not it was on that play or not, when because you could tell the Bills did get deflated after that. But
yeah,
I mean, they did kick another field goal to make it 16-0 at that point, because that touchdown would have been 20-0.
Yeah,
and because they were up 13, and they did score again before Houston made the comeback. So,
look, and the Bills, even though they were a little deflated or whatnot, let's say 9 times out of 10, actually probably 9.9 out of 10, someone's going to cash that nil. That's not typically going to be where the Bills were going to make their bread and butter anyways. But
right.
And the Bills
defense out of adrenaline to
ran around the Bills defense and was able to make plays. Yeah. If I have to look at anything in the game, it's not going to be plays like I'm going to go do the Bills defense got beat.
Oh yeah, look, Deshaun Watson had himself a ball game, and especially that second half. I mean, the Texans came out and they were the better team in the second half. So hats off to them.
Yeah,
playing in the divisional round, and it's going to be fun to watch them and the Chiefs on Sunday.
I don't think so. I think now we're moving into the world of slaughter. I think KC will slaughter the Texans. So yeah, and when we're talking about our game,
it'll be a good game than the Ravens Titans.
Yeah. What?
What's that?
I said since we're talking about the teams that I guess when we talk about the teams that won, we might as well talk about the next game they're going to be in. And sure. I think it's going to be. I think KC will slaughter the Texans personally.
I think KC will win, but I think it'll be a case of, I think in the first half, maybe even the first 3 quarters, we're going to sit there and say, "Ooh, look at the Texans hanging tough."
And the over is 51, and the under is 9.5. So I mean, obviously Vegas is filling me.
Yeah, and and it's funny, I actually hadn't looked at any odds yet this week. I've been in kind of football morning,
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to yours here in a second, so
yeah, but yeah, I mean that does suggest that makes me see it a little different, because I like to look at the line and it's telling me that line does scream that this should be a Chiefs blowout, and maybe it will be.
Yeah,
but I still kind of think the Chiefs will win. But I think the Texans keep it close for a while.
Yeah, I think the first half will be decent. I think second half will be where the blowout begins, like most games. I mean, it's not really predicting anything crazy.
Kind of
I'm seeing like a 17-point win for the KC.
Okay.
I'm seeing like 2 touchdown and a field goal win.
Yeah, I'm thinking like a 10-point win, something like that for KC. They tackle on, but I'm saying the gist of it is it's.
Say what I've been. Repeat what I said. 4 episodes ago, week 12, week 13, I said. I still think we're looking at a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl, in my opinion. That's what I think this is going to end up being.
Hey, I'd
make some of my predictions already known for the next couple of games we're going to talk about, but I'll go into why with each team strengths.
Sure.
So
well, I guess let's
talk Eagles.
All right, we can talk Eagles.
Yeah, talk Eagles. Before we start, I want you to look around yourself, like on your deck. No knives, no butter knives, no stools. No, get it all out of your way.
I made sure all dangerous material was left in the other room.
Okay. All right.
Let me.
You want me to go first, or do you have like a
sure?
Do you have a tangent you really want to get off your chest?
You can go first. That's
okay. Fine. First of all, let me say this. I was actually unimpressed with Wentz and very impressed with Doug Peterson. What Doug Peterson showed to me is that he can take a team that lacks the assets and coach them to victory anyways. Everything I wanted Jason Garrett to be able to do for years, like when Romo went down. Doug Peterson, I have a lot more admiration for him as a coach. With as many injuries as the Eagles had, he still put together a playoff game that was competitive with what he had. I was very impressed. And when I say I wasn't as impressed with Wentz, not because he got injured or anything. Obviously, that's not his fault. I guess I thought he would be the one to alpha the game, and instead I ended up seeing Doug Peterson alpha in that game together. The fact that McCown came in, he didn't play as good as Wentz, but he played at a level where Doug Peterson's going, I can make this work with my system. Everything's going to be okay. That's what it looked like to me. I thought the Eagles were actually going to pull that off. I picked the Seattle to win the game, but as I was watching it, I saw momentum swinging towards the Eagles for a while there. Even when Wentz went down, I still saw momentum on the Eagles side. I saw a lot of energy coming out of them. And I started to have a little flashback of Foles Gold. And I was like, oh, shit, McCown is the next plug-in to take a Super Bowl. And Wentz is going to be on the sideline watching once again. I thought that's going to be a possibility. So I was and I'll talk about Seattle here in a second, but I was very impressed with the Eagles from a Doug Peterson standpoint. Obviously, there were players and some standout plays and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I do, for the hit that Wentz said, that to me, I do think it was dirty, but not actually, I don't like to use the word dirty. I think there's a good play, messy, and dirty. I think that was a very messy play. And what I mean by that is the intent was to hurt Wentz, in my opinion. I don't think he wanted to hit him in the back of the head. I think he wanted to hurt Wentz, though. I think that was just the way it all fell down and went. He should have known better that, once Wentz has pretty much given himself up, he didn't need to hit him. But I think his intent was to hurt him. I just don't think the back of the head is where he planned on trying to hurt him from. So that's what I mean by messy. To me, dirty is like, you're going to try to concuss him out. Like, I didn't see it when I replayed it, the momentum and everything. I think Wentz might actually fall to his side, and I think he was just basically going to hit his body one more time and be that extra hit to go, you don't want to get hit by us, like give him that feeling. And instead, he took him out in the back of the head. Now, first of all, I don't like Clowney anyways, because dude fucking played like shit in Houston, gets traded to Seattle, and all of a sudden the dude can play football after we spent 3 years rehabbing his ass. So that pissed me off. Yeah. I don't like him anyways. But so from that standpoint, I didn't like seeing, once again, unintentional hit on Wentz. I saw him on the sideline. Like, you could tell the dude had a headache. I'm sure back in the game. He didn't want this to be another year. The big debate is, had Wentz been in the game the whole time, would the Eagles have won? I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is I saw momentum shift. Even with the Eagles playing decent, solid football, I still saw a momentum shift towards the end. The energy level seemed to go to Seattle on that end. Maybe that's for morale of Wentz. I don't know. The Eagles seem like a team where even if Wentz goes down, they still can play good football. It doesn't demoralize them. So I didn't think Wentz was the culprit of ultimately the Eagles losing. I think Seattle played a little crisper football there at the end. But my takeaway from the game was, like, Doug Peterson, don't ever fucking let him go, because we'll take him. Like, he's a good football coach. Y'all got a good football coach.
Look, yeah. And my takeaway from the game, aside from my feelings about the Jadeveon Clowney hit, which I'll get into, but my takeaway was also something of Doug Peterson and this group, like this core group, the Zach Ertz, the Lane Johnsons, even the Lane.
My girlfriend has a huge freaking crush on freaking Ertz. She asks me every game, who is that? I tell her every game who it is. She asks me again every game he's on. Who is that? I even saw the commercial with his girlfriend. And I'm like, that's the guy you like. She's like, oh, okay. And then when he's on the field, she's still, is that him? Like, it's not him. So.
But yeah, that group, Ertz, Goddard, Wentz included, Miles Sanders, that group, and including, I think you can include guys like Greg Ward in there as well. That's a special group.
Yeah.
And the kind of environment, the culture that was created by Doug Peterson when he was hired. It's funny because when Chip Kelly got let go, one of the things that that Jeffrey Lurie talked about was how it kind of like that Chip had kind of created a culture of he was above people, and that he wasn't quite embracing of his players.
Yeah, he wasn't a player's coach. He was a coach.
No.
Yeah, he was just a straight hard-ass coach.
And it's funny, like they played Sounders on Sports Talk Radio, making fun of Jeffrey Lurie for saying things like you need to open your heart, and we need emotional intelligence. And like people mocked him for saying this stuff, and I sat there and just like, like I feel like he looked at it and said, "This isn't just about X's and O's. This is about a culture change and developing an environment in which everybody supports each other, like working together." And it was just such a, it's refreshing. And Doug Peterson is the guy that has really taken that and harnessed it and brought it to another level.
Yeah, and I think certain franchises need a coach like that. I think certain franchise Doug Peterson wouldn't thrive in because they don't want that kind of player personnel guy. I think it all depends where you come from.
They found the winning formula. They found the winning formula for them, and I agree. There are other formulas that can be successful, and it's all about what guys you have around them, and who you like. The whole surrounding, it all has to mesh together. But I feel like they created something special and something that can work.
Yeah, and I think if any player can take anything away from the Doug Peterson method, it's that it's got a little bit of patriotism to it. If you don't work next man up, my system will still get us to the promised land. And I'm an admiration person of system over players. So that's why I think I've grown a little bit of a coach crush, as I call it, on Doug Peterson. I think he has a systematic formula to where it is next man up. We can still play football. Look, you guys had a ton of injuries this year.
Yeah,
you still got war and competed with a team that's pretty damn good. I would say that's still a success.
And now I'm gonna get into a little my feelings on the Jadeveon Clowney hit. The initial response when I first saw the hit itself, I thought it was dirty. Right from Jump Street, I thought.
Carson Wentz, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Carson Wentz was clearly, the leap forward, the dive forward, which I was told at the beginning of the season, just as you were, that would have the same effect as the slide feet first.
Right.
So that, he's giving himself up, and so any hit would be considered late. And Jadeveon Clowney clearly hit him late and hit him in the head. Now, I looked at it and said, man, he led with his head right into the back of Wentz's head.
I agree. He led with his head. I just don't think he was aiming for Wentz's head at the same time.
I will say that a former player by the name of Bart Scott,
I know Bart Scott.
Yeah, on Wake Up Football or something on NFL Network.
First Things First, too. He's a guest on there.
He said that you can tell in the slow motion, you can tell how he changed direction, aiming for his head. And this is a former player saying, yeah, there's no doubt he intended to injure Wentz. He intended to put him out. And he was one of the only guys I saw say, call a spade a spade. That was dirty.
So my favorite shows are I watched The Herd, I watched First Take, I watched First Things First, I watched Undisputed. Every day I watch all those shows just to get all things. Different shows had different opinions. Speak for Yourself with Whitlock and LeVar Arrington, who fucking knows how to lay someone out. What's his name? Harrison was on there. Bucky Brooks. They were all talking about it. That whole crew thinks it was dirty. All of them. So it's not just Bart Scott. On First Things First, though, you have your ex-Eagle guy. I forgot his name. Wears glasses. With Nick Wright. Yeah, and he had said he didn't think both of them didn't think it was a dirty hit. They thought it was an intentional hurt, but not a dirty. In other words, they didn't think he was aiming for the head. They thought he was just trying to hurt him, like a rib hit or something, and it just landed the way it landed. So as I said, you got different opinions. Look, I call it what it is. He wanted to hurt Wentz. Period.
And there's no place in this game. Right. And I love how afterwards the official saying, he become a runner and so he wasn't protected. No, that's not according to your rule books. When he goes head first, he's given himself up. That's the rule. And then he says, there was incidental helmet to helmet. One incidental helmet to helmet isn't a thing. That's not a part of any rule book. That's not a part of any vocabulary. So don't come at me with that garbage. That's not there is no incidental head to helmet.
Once again, we're getting into that intent versus the rule book. Technical intent. one has to go by human judgment, and one is already written down. The NFL seems to be running into this problem all the time of making a human judgment versus just going by the rule book. And I don't know which one they're going to pick on any given week anymore.
And this is part of the problem. This, to me, just scratches at the surface of the NFL's biggest problem right now, and that is the inconsistency of officiating. And if only there was a way to help this, like maybe make officials full-time employees of the National Football League.
I hate to say this, but the XFL has it right when it comes to refereeing. They said they took basically the book of the NFL and shrunk it down as much as they could, and then what was left, they simplified that as much as they could. And they said the biggest
that is the right approach.
Yeah, the biggest complaint from fans is the stopping of momentum during a game for a freaking penalty and the amount of penalties that are called. Mm-hmm. Get rid of holding on the line. Holding shouldn't even exist to me. You're grown men. If you don't want me on you, throw my ass off you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of ridiculous, the holding penalties on the lines, because
it happens.
You know what? Your job is to block the guy in front of you. Yeah, just like they teach techniques of taking your arm and striking down the arms. Just teach that more. Just teach that more, so that
I think the easiest thing to do is say, linemen, holding is no longer a penalty call. Just take it out. We don't need it because there's holding on every single play on the line. Every play.
I agree. The only kind of holding I think that can be penalized.
That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Is defensive holding of an eligible receiver. I think that should be the only thing that should be holding on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one I like, and I know this is probably not your cup of tea, the neutral zone infraction is retarded. To me, you're either over the ball or not. I don't care about the neutral zone anymore. Get rid of it. Just make it, you're either offsides or you're not. I don't care about neutral zone infractions anymore.
Well, what I don't want to see, I'm tired of this. The defender jumps into the neutral zone and then causes the offensive player to move. Unless that defender makes contact with the offensive player, I don't want to hear it. No, sorry, hold your ground. You know when the snap count is. There should be some advantage to being a defensive player. Yeah. So, I mean, because the offensive player gets the advantage of knowing when the freaking snap count is.
Right.
So, I mean, he should know.
I swear, we should do a segment just on NFL rules, and I bet we could eat up an hour
I'm down with that.
Because,
I'm down with that, yeah.
Like, first of all, I don't like 2 feet in to make a catch. There's tons of rules I can't stand out of the NFL. I can't stand overtime rules.
You get to 1 foot, yeah.
They've been proven by science that having to have 2 feet in at the same time is actually worse on the body and unsafe. Whereas 1 foot is normal and
all we're talking about is player safety.
Yeah. I mean, the doctors, the physicists, doctors who look at the helmet hits and all that they said having to have 2 feet in is likely to cause more injury. Having 1 foot in is actually a natural thing to try to do. Having 2 is not. So I'm kind of like, man, just get rid of some of this stuff. It's just stupid. But anyway.
Yeah, I'd be fine with yeah.
I don't want to get sidetracked.
Let's talk about,
me and you are both passionate about hating on zebras. So,
well, I want to talk about something else that I'm passionate on hating on, and that is I've wanted to say this a couple times, and I've thought over the last few years maybe I had gotten a chance to, but the death of a dynasty. Are the Patriots done?
Are you asking my opinion, or are you about to state your?
Yeah, I'm asking your.
Right now, not at all.
Give mine. Yeah,
not at all. Not to me. First of all, people debating whether Tom Brady's coming back or not. Of course he's coming back. Robert Kraft is never going to let that dude suit up in another freaking uniform. You're crazy. You're just not. I think he'd take a mediocre season just to have Tom Brady retire a Patriot, in my opinion. But now Belichick,
I agree.
Different story. I think Belichick is ready to move on from Brady.
Would love to let Brady leave.
Yeah, I think Garoppolo was his move-on chess piece. Mm-hmm. And obviously Brady forced his hand with Kraft, and Kraft said, look, Brady's my second adopted son. When Brady's done, then you can do whatever you want. Until then, I support Tom. Do whatever you want with the rest of the team. That's what I think how Kraft looks at it.
Yeah, I think Robert Kraft looked at Bill Belichick and said, dude, you think 20 years from now people are going to be sitting up there with their Bill Belichick hoodies on? in Gillette Stadium? No,
Right.
they're going to still be rocking the number 12 Tom Brady jersey,
Right.
and they're going to be talking about the glory days. Because look, let's face it, at some point, this is going to end. Like Tom will retire at some point, right?
Yeah. Look, he said 45. I think he's going to really try to make it to 45. I think he realizes the struggle is real now to make it there.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what, he's out at 45, and I think he'll judge himself year by year up until 45. Once we hit 45, I think he's gone. I think he retires after next year. I think he goes 2021 and calls it quits.
Yeah, I can see him playing 2 more seasons, 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, he won his first Super Bowl in 01. I think he leaves in 21. I just feel like it's symmetrical for him somewhere in there. That's just my prediction. Can you believe that? That dude won in 2. We were just barely out of freaking high school. All right?
Yeah, look, I was 21 years old at the time. I remember sitting there watching that Super Bowl with my dad because, yeah, right? You're the same age, buddy. You're a month younger.
Hey, I'm younger, though. Don't be talking. You, baby. Like, what do you want from me?
I got a full 30 days, baby.
That's the fountain of youth, those 30 days. If you die, I'm going to go, hey, at least I got 30 more days. You know?
But, yeah, so I remember watching it. The Eagles had lost in the NFC title game. And, the whole playoffs, like I said, every Eagles game is like basically a party at my parents' house. So we all get together to watch every game. When it's a home game, my dad and I go down. When it's an away game, we all there's a whole crew that goes over to my dad's house. And I remember that year, going through the whole playoffs. And then when we watched the Super Bowl, I guess everybody was kind of partied out. They just kind of needed a break from it. Like nobody came over to watch it. It was just me and my dad sitting there watching the Super Bowl. And when the Patriots got introduced as a team, they were the first team to do that, get introduced as a team instead of the individual players getting introduced. I said to my dad, they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And then they did. And I was kind of half rooting for them at the time. I didn't realize they would become the evil empire.
Well, nobody saw that coming. I mean, first of all, it's never been done in the NFL, so who could have predicted it regardless at the end of the day? But
right.
So, okay. So we were talking about the Eagles. Eagles obviously lost Seattle. Seattle's going to Green Bay. What do you think?
I think Green Bay will win. The home field advantage, if they can get the balance with Aaron Jones and just on offense, I think the defense is pretty good. Seattle's offense, I don't think is that spectacular. Like Green Bay will be able to cover their receivers one-on-one, unlike the Eagles corners who, God bless them, just aren't very good at football.
Yeah.
Which would be perfectly fine.
I think it's Green Bay. I mean, I don't really think there's a lot to even think about. I just think Green Bay is a better team in all aspects of the football.
Well, I kind of wanted to break it down a little bit and give a couple reasons, but yeah, I agree.
Well, I do, but I mean, I can't break anything down because I just think across the board, Green Bay is just a better team. I mean, anywhere I look, I think they're just. I'm not individual players. I just think across the board, they're playing fundamentally better football in all regions of it. So far, I mean, Seattle's beat some teams that were decent, but I don't feel like they've played anybody with some stellar record yet, except for until they run to Green Bay. Maybe the Ravens, and they play the Niners, right? But they lost to both those teams. So I'm saying it seems like when they play some juggernaut teams, they go down. So, and
I think that Sunday they're playing a juggernaut team. The Green Bay Packers team is a really good team.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. You already said earlier, I think the Niners team that's my team. That's who this year I'm like all over. I think they're the up and coming, the next consistent team to have put up lots of wins all the time. I think San Francisco's got something good going on, cooking over there. If you want to go to San Francisco, Minnesota now.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk a little bit about the Minnesota game. I actually didn't watch the Minnesota game on Sunday.
I did.
I was downtown.
And I was pissed to know that New Orleans is going to cry about a call for a whole nother freaking year again. I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. For the record, that was not pass interference push off to me. I watched it, half a second before the push off. And first of all, if you watch the play, the DB pushes his hand completely down, almost holding the receiver's hand down.
Yeah.
He brings it back up and pushes off with it after it had been held down. So because of that, and the fact that New York and the on-field judges all agreed it wasn't a push-off, it wasn't pass interference. And I think they knew what happened last year, so I think they took a really good look at it, and they still came to the conclusion of, no, sorry. And my whole thing and I know we want to get plays right, but to New Orleans, stop making your games come down to the last damn play. Play better football if you don't want it to be that way. I mean, I don't have to tell you anymore. And I was rooting for the Saints, by the way.
Yeah.
So
it's
who thought they were going to win, who picked them. It wasn't push off to me. So
yeah, I wanted the Saints to win. I think I've told you on this show, and I know I said it on my other shows. I wanted it to come down to the Eagles-Saints NFC title game because of the way Saints beat the Eagles last year, and I wanted another shot at them, and so I was rooting hard for the Saints to win that game, even though I was probably the only person in Lincoln Financial Field thinking that way because they all saw it as, hey, if the Vikings win and we win, and then we both win next week, the NFC title game's in Philadelphia. And I'm the only one that, no, let's stop with the pipe dreams.
Yeah.
I want the Saints.
Yeah, well, so obviously I'm going San Francisco.
Back and let the Eagles play the Saints.
I will say this. Mike Zimmer's done a lot with that team. He's made Minnesota relevant. So Minnesota is a good football team. Kirk Cousins, do you like that? I mean, he did.
Yeah, you like that.
I think people need to shut up. I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. I don't know why people rag on him so much. He plays solid football. He's not crazy. He doesn't throw interceptions all over the field. He might have a game or two during the year, but who the hell doesn't in the NFL? I think the Redskins should have never got rid of him. When people said he sucked, he didn't do that good in the Redskins, I was like, he played for the Redskins. Nobody plays good on the Redskins. Even LeVar Arrington ragged on that franchise when he was there saying, no matter how good I was, we were the freaking Redskins, like at the end of the day. So what the hell do you want?
So true.
So my takeaway from that game, I did watch it in detail and watched all these freaking replays of everything that was controversial in the game. Kirk Cousins is a good football player. Mike Zimmer has that team competitive. The Minnesota Vikings from here on out to me are relevant. But I do think the Saints were the better football team, but they definitely did not play the better football that day to me. Drew Brees threw an uncharacteristic interception. Yeah. There was just some plays in there. I was like, you guys are at home and you're looking like you're on the ropes. Look, not to take away from Minnesota. Obviously, Minnesota played good. But Minnesota's defense wasn't all that great. So that's my takeaway. Anyway, so I'm picking Niners to beat Minnesota Vikings by 14. I think San Francisco's that good. I think they'll crush up.
Again, I think this is going to be another one where San Francisco wins, but at the end, the Vikings can look at them like, wow, that Vikings team is pretty good. Like, I think, there's a lot of people out there who think San Francisco, the 1 seed against the 6 seed Minnesota, and some people think they got lucky against New Orleans. Like I said, I didn't see the game, but just my impression is, from what I've seen from the Saints in the past, they have a tendency to want to play down to their competition.
Okay.
And I think the Vikings are a good football team. I've seen Kirk Cousins, like, for all the knocking people do on him, every time he plays the Eagles, man, he seems to have something for us. And
yeah.
And so I got nothing but respect.
People know his personal story. This dude lived in a basement of his parents' house with his wife and kids, and lived out of and drove a beat up minivan that barely ran for years, just trying to survive in football. And he got an opportunity. This isn't a guy who just thinks he's like some badass or something and just like a show off. Like, he's all about earning his keep. And Troy Aikman was saying it himself. Troy Aikman said during the game, I like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. From a fundamental standpoint, when I watch him, his dropbacks, his read, he's a good quarterback. He just always needed to be in a better system. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of it. He's worked in the Vikings pretty well and whatnot. I expect Vikings to only get better. I mean, they don't have a lot of reasons to get worse.
Yeah, I think that the Vikings under Kirk Cousins, their best football's in front of them, not behind them.
Yeah, and I say, if you're in the NFC, I think in the future, I'm always going to see them as like a 10-3 I'm sorry, what am I thinking of here? 10-6, somewhere around their team every year when it comes down to it. I think they're just always going to be a 10-win football game. I don't ever think they're going to roll like 15 win. But I think they're going to make the playoffs for the next couple of years. I mean, they have in the past with other quarterbacks. Now they got a steady quarterback. I just see them, like you said, I only see them getting better with good football in front of them. So.
Yeah, so I look forward to that game. But yeah, I'll also take San Francisco. So let's see. We picked the Texans Chiefs. We have not talked yet about the Ravens and the Tennessee Titans.
Okay, I watched that game. I watched Tennessee and New England, and I don't know how many people ever watched Henry in college football. I mean, this dude is a gigantic kid. When he was in college, there's a picture. I mean, I'll bring next time of Mark Ingram and Henry standing next to each other. Heisman Trophy Ingram. And he looks like a child next to Henry. Henry is a big kid. And the fact that I watched him making the cuts he did at his height and size and weight, it was like a gigantic Barry Sanders in the game. It was freaking nuts. And they knew he was going to get the ball, and they kept feeding him, and he kept shoving it down their throat. He is like, I mean, he's what the Rams did to the Cowboys last year. He's the guy that he will keep. If you give him enough up the middle, he's going to eventually wear your ass out. So, I obviously
like that one try just before halftime where every play was a play to Henry. It was like the offensive coordinator just said, "Okay, clearly they can't stop this, so we're just going to keep giving it to Henry." And their hurry up offense was, "Hey, Henry, just run faster."
Well, no, I'm telling you. I mean, I'm going to see if I can find this photo. I bet I can. Hold on. There it is. Right. Hold on.
Well, yeah, you can't find the photo. I'll keep.
Let me see if you can see it on the screen. There's
I can see it. Yeah. Oh man!
Next to Ingram, and Ingram looks like he's a foot shorter, and
Ingram looks like. Henry looks like he ate Mark Ingram.
I mean, that's freaking. Let me get a little closer.
Derrick Henry looks like he could eat Mark Ingram right there.
He is a man-child. That is ridiculous. And by the way, he won that game on his 26th birthday? 24th, 26th? Yeah. I mean, he won that game on his birthday, so he had a little extra pizzazz in him, I think. But, man.
The birthday cake that got him in there.
Had it not been Tennessee, I would have been like, dude, the Ravens are going to run with this. I think first of all, I love Mike Grable. Played for former Patriots Super Bowl winner, Houston Texans defensive coach. That dude, I'm really proud of the job he's done because they didn't give him a lot of credit. When he pulled Mariota, people thought he was crazy. I give him a lot of credit. He's done some things with the Titans I didn't expect. He's made Titans competitive. They're on the map, and most people thought Tennessee was going to be all about defense. Not thinking Henry's going to be slamming you with Tannehill. So I applaud his ability to adapt mid-year and make a change that put them on the right path. But I'm going Ravens, even though I just raved about the Tennessee Titans. I actually think that's going to be a 10-point game in the end by the Ravens. I think it's close all the way into the fourth quarter, though.
Yeah, look, I love and I loved how they managed that spot, in the fourth quarter, where just before the 5-minute mark, when he knew that up until then they could run the delay of game penalty twice and it would still keep the clock running. And then they could just false start and keep the clock running all the way down to the 5-minute mark.
Yeah.
And that was just so smart. I remember, he just out Belichicked Belichick. And Belichick was there having a conniption about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Belichick was upset, but I think one thing Belichick accepted, he's like, look, we had no answer for Henry, period. We didn't. We tried. Yeah. We flooded the box. He still bashed him over. He's just too big.
And he just ate the box.
Yeah, we basically didn't prepare for running back his size very well. We didn't scheme around stopping him very well. And he ran us over. He blew him. Literally, I thought I was watching Rams Cowboys. It looked like just a bulldozer coming up the middle, and there was no answer for it. It was crazy. So
yeah, it was pretty cool to watch.
So you got Ravens, Titans, or by what?
Yeah. I'll take the Ravens. It'll be by about, I think, a touchdown, maybe 10 points. But like I said, not a blowout. But
I'm going to go with 10
I think at
points.
the end of it, again, we're saying, yeah. At the end of this, I think again we're saying, man, Ravens are a good football team. They're going to win the championship this year, but watch out for the Titans in the future.
Yeah. So what about outside football news? What do we got? What do we got going on right now?
The coaching carousel. The Cowboys look like you've hired Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good hire for the Cowboys.
First of all, I mean, you don't even want to know the cartwheels I did when Garrett was released. First of all, longest firing in the world I've ever seen. It took forever to announce it. They were hanging on to Ginger like, he's a second coming child again. And his actual contract doesn't expire till the 14th. So technically he's still employed by the Cowboys right now being paid. But Jerry Jones, I think it was a very hard decision, Jerry Jones. He does look at Garrett like a son. I mean, the guy's been part of the Cowboy family since 94. I mean, he's been there forever. So
yeah,
I think it was personal for him. It wasn't a normal firing for him.
I don't think he did Jason Garrett any favors by holding on to him the way he did, because I don't know if Jason Garrett would have been a candidate anywhere else. I know the Giants were looking at him as a possible candidate. They decided to go ahead and hire
for offensive coordinator, not for head coach. So the Giants said they had no interest in looking at him as a head coach, only an offensive coordinator. They said,
"Wow,
yeah." I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. I think he's going to be an offensive coordinator again. Yeah.
If I were him, I would sit out this season and be a broadcaster or something somewhere. See if you could do that.
Yeah, look, he's from Princeton.
A season away,
sportscaster. So.
Yeah, a season away would increase his value.
Yeah. Look, I am
10 years at the Cowboys and had some success.
A lot of controversy in Dallas right now over Mike McCarthy. Some people say, "Oh, that was a safe choice." Some people said his scheme was outdated in Green Bay. How in the hell is it going to do anything for a talented group like we have now? Aaron Rodgers ran him out of the stadium basically because he was upset with his conservative scheme and whatnot. I personally like the hire. I think we've always needed someone like a Bill Parcells that already had a Super Bowl under their belt to come in and get these kids, these players that are crazy talented, but all got little chips and attitudes, and get the boat lined up. A lot of people think Jason Garrett was already the disciplinary type guy. I actually don't believe in that. I think he's a strong discipline guy, but he didn't carry that heavyweight hit like McCarthy brings with him. McCarthy brings with him, to me,
the one thing McCarthy do
quality. And I think he's adapted. I watched a radio show where he talked about what he's been doing during the offseason. He's been re-scheming what scheme he'd use when he goes to his next team. He said, I've been working on that for a year. He's like, I didn't just go home and eat popcorn. He goes, my wife, helped coach football in high school. He's like, my kids, we're a football family. He said, I'm the guy that wants to coach till I die. I'm not interested in retiring at all. So, I mean, football's in his blood. That's what he wants to be doing.
Okay.
I like the hire. First of all, I jumped for joy when Garrett was fired. Jump for freaking joy. You have no idea. I did exactly 8 jumping jacks and 8 push-ups for 8 and 8. And then I said, but thank the Lord. 8 and 8 is now a distant number in my life. Even though he didn't go 8 and 8 of the season. And in Texas, he's known as Mr. 8 and 8. That's all there is to it. I'm not passionate about
this. Look, I mean, yeah, well, look, I think one of the great things about this is you talked about having a coach that could demand a room and can immediately demand the respect, because if Ezekiel Elliott or Dak Prescott or anybody tries to mellow, oh, what are you talking about, coach? All he's got to do is, boom, put his championship ring down and just say, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, and look,
get you one of these before you start mouthing off to me.
You talked about, taking so long with Jason Garrett being a disservice to Jason Garrett. No, taking so long and fighting Jason Garrett was a disservice to the Cowboys, because Ron Rivera could have been a choice, but you let him go to the Redskins because you're too busy deciding if you're going to fire Garrett. So you missed opportunities to interview other coaches. What I do like about the decision is we didn't go gimmicky.
I think that we
didn't go Sean McVay. We didn't try to get some late, hot, young talent. We waited to get someone seasoned. I was very proud of Jerry Jones to bring in a power player like that. At first, I thought he might feel threatened by. He'd want like a Lincoln Riley, someone who's young enough to where he can still manipulate his way. Not that he won't poke his nose in. We all know that's Jerry Jones, and he ain't getting rid of that DNA in him.
Yeah.
But I think being that, like I said, being that McCarthy is not a part of the Cowboy family gives him a different edge that other coaches don't have that come within. He is going to keep Kellen Moore, which I like. I think Kellen Moore actually did a great job with the offense. I was happy with him.
I think Kellen Moore is the future head coach in this league, I think.
Oh, yeah. Could be a future head coach of the Cowboys. If Jerry likes his family thing, you never know.
Yeah.
Now, and look, I don't know what the salary is yet, but Jerry Jones never paid top dollar for a coach. I'm real curious to see what that's going to be. Siri just came on. What are you doing my phone over here? Anyways, I know I have a lot to say on that subject because obviously I've been begging for Garrett to be fired for years, so I was really – that's all pent up in me.
I was looking for action. That's why I had to let you take the floor on that.
Yeah, I told people, not counting the Cowboys, I said no one should have let McCarthy sit like he did for as long as he did. Someone should have grabbed him sooner. Like, to me, he's a good head coach. And Aaron Rodgers, I like Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's an asshole. And I can see why him and McCarthy probably clash. I think Aaron Rodgers has a chip that unless you let –
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I think yeah. We've talked about that on the show, that Aaron Rodgers kind of possesses a little bit of that a-hole quality.
Hey, so, and look, I don't really
I think it's an excellent hire for the Cowboys.
I just don't think, what's McCarthy leaving Green Bay. I don't think that's a reflection of McCarthy being a bad coach. I think it's a reflection of two personalities that had grown tired of each other.
Yeah, no, you could be right about that. Now, I'll ask you, what is some of your takes on some guys being upset about hirings, and again, another year where there's no minority hire? A couple good candidates that I think could have been considered. One that I think is an obvious snub, Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator of Kansas City. How that guy's not being given a decent look, I don't understand.
I agree with that. Look, when it comes to minority hires, I don't like the Rooney Rule. I say if you're a good head coach, everybody wants to win in this business, you'll get hired. I don't give a shit what color you are. If you are a winning coach, look, but what I will say from a psychological standpoint and studying the subject, we like to hire what we're familiar with. And, if you're a hard-nosed organization or you're a cheapskate, you're going to hire a cheapskate-like guy that does half-an-ass job, like a Browns owner or a Bengals owner, which to me is one of the worst. I don't even want to get in the Bengals owner. And, look, as a Cowboy, I was okay. If we didn't pick McCarthy, I wanted Marvin Lewis. I think he would have gelled well with a team. I've liked him. I've watched Marvin Lewis twice on Hard Knocks. I like his coaching style. I think he was part of an organization. He took a team that really didn't ever have anything great, and he got competitive. He got the first round of playoffs a ton of times. Put him on a team with a ton of talent, I think he goes deeper. Now, we could say that for any head coach, but I like the charisma of Marvin Lewis. So if McCarthy – Urban Meyer was my first choice. Let me make that clear. I wanted Urban Meyer above anybody else. I didn't want Lincoln Riley at all. Okay. I think Lincoln Riley does not know how to put a defense together. Why Oklahoma gets crushed out of the playoffs every year. But I think that I wanted Urban Meyer, and then I was okay with Marvin Lewis, and then my third was either McCarthy or Ron Rivera. That's the order I had in which I wanted to look at the coaches. So basically, McCarthy was my second pick. If it wasn't Urban Meyer, I wasn't even interviewed, so I guess that was a rumor that never must have happened or something.
I'm sure there was some concern. I wonder if he got a phone call. He said no thanks, and so they figure, all right, if he's already saying no, then we're not going to bring him in for an interview.
I think what was important to me wasn't just like that we had a Super Bowl coach. I wanted an older coach. I did not want the young snazzy McVay fad to come into the Cowboys. I didn't want it. And so I was glad that they didn't get caught up in that system of, going and getting a Cliff Kingsbury or someone like that. They weren't trying. I think that's why they didn't even give Lincoln Riley a shot. I think they decided to go against the grain and not go that young, fresh, guy who puts together all these schemes that no one's ever seen or anything. I'm glad they didn't go that route. I was glad
Right.
to see a seasoned coach come in. The Cowboys need an established season-winning coach, and McCarthy has a great record. Some people say without Aaron Rodgers he wouldn't have it. Some say he's a good coach regardless. It's going to be a great experiment. This is an experiment I'm okay with watching. I'm very comfortable with the
I always find it funny. Oh, well, of course he was successful. He had Aaron Rodgers. Look around the National Football League. It is filled with great talent. Like you're talking about, the 32 best guys that can play quarterback in this world are playing on one of those teams. So you're going to have some talent wherever you go. It's about being able to harness that talent and getting them to buy into your philosophy and come up with a winning formula.
Yeah,
and that's where Mike McCarthy had
it's about taking
and
good players.
Because
you're right, there's talent everywhere. It's about taking good players and being the type of coach that makes them into the people they can potentially be, even though they're good, but making them great. And if you're not that coach, taking every single player in your team to step up and be in the next level. I think Jason Garrett was a good coach. He's a smart guy. I do think the team bought into him, but I think it took him too long to eventually get to a precipice where he could actually get something done. He had worn himself out by the time he got to having a willing caliber team. Like, put it this way, had he only been on the job 3 years with this team and not done it, we would be giving him longer to do it now. But because he had been there in a previous era of players, I think it just wore him out. It wore the way we feel about him out, getting a whole new set of players to deal with. I'm like, he's getting too many chances. Like, I just want to start over now.
Maybe it's a little bit of the approach that the Philadelphia Eagles and our fan base had with Andy Reid. Like, he had an entire era, Donovan McNabb and that whole group to try and get over the hump and get to a championship, and never did it. And then, we bring in some new talent, and it wasn't terrible most of the time. He had a really bad last year of his tenure here, and then mediocre to bad previous year. And the 2 bad years there, that was just, I think the writing was on the wall that, the time had passed him by here. It was time for something different. And I think that's the exact same thing that happened to Dallas. They had good players. They had talent. They didn't have a bad season, but it's just, you stayed pretty healthy most of the year, which is a good thing, which sometimes is half the battle. Let me tell you, as an Eagles fan, I would kill for that kind of health among my starters.
So let me ask you this: as an Eagles fan, with y'all knowing that we have McCarthy now, how does that make you feel? The same? We're going to be better, or we might even be worse in the beginning? As an Eagles fan, what do you think of the competition?
I was the guy championing the 4 more years for Jason Garrett. So I think this is a great hire for the Cowboys. But you know what? I also feel iron sharpens iron. I love the competition of it. I love when the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry is relevant. Yeah. For a number of years there, the Cowboys had dropped off while the Eagles were in their heyday with Andy Reid when they were getting to NFC Championship games. And, Dallas week didn't seem to have the same bite to it that it does now. And bringing Mike McCarthy in there, along with the talent that you have with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, I think that just adds to the fun that's going to be. So I look forward to it. I welcome competition.
Do you like
iron sharpens iron?
What do you think about getting to the Rooney Rule and everything you're talking about? I think the big upheaval was obviously I forgot the Jets guy that they poached over to the Browns. Is the Browns he went to? Where did the coach go? What am I thinking? Oh, the Panthers head coach. There we go. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Matt Rule.
Yeah,
Matt Rule got hired by the Panthers.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of people were like, why weren't they considering the KC offensive coordinator? And I'm like, look, when the hell did we decide we know what coaches need to be on what teams? I mean, look, we know who we might favor, but at the end of the day, there's someone who owns that team that has to feel comfortable with the person that reports to them. And I think that's where the big, drop off is or whatnot. You got the guy I think the head coach hired by the Giants is going to go nowhere. I think that's another. I don't know what's with the Giants.
Joe Judge, I feel like.
I don't get the Giants and their head coaching style. Maybe Coughlin scared you from having like a real head coach. I don't know. But
it's funny. One of my dad's really good friends is a Giant fan, and I get to talk to him every now and then. And he's just sitting there. He's like, "Man, why is this team trying to chase me away from being a fan?" He's like, "Why can't we hire a real coach?" And he wanted Eric Bieniemy to be the Giants coach.
yeah.
And but then again, he's look. I didn't care about it being, but he's a black man himself. But he said he didn't care about it being a black coach. He just said, "I want a good coach, and I just don't feel like Joe Judge. Like this guy sounds like someone. All right, this guy will be the next guy fired in 2 years."
Well, I mean, it is
And
a
it's
coaching
I
carousal.
feel like it's happy.
I mean, what else do we have going on? We had the Panthers. What about the Browns? Did the Browns pick anybody? I don't remember.
No, the Browns haven't hired anybody yet. I wonder
Did,
if they're waiting.
did you think it was
If they're
smart
waiting
to
on
let Jack
somebody.
Dorsey go?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought he took a gamble for 1 year, didn't work, and he was willing to get rid of all them and do it again.
Right.
Here's the only reason why I can
enough.
think Jack Dorsey was let go, in my opinion. The owner didn't like that he let Baker Mayfield probably have some impression on who should be coaching. And that probably bothered the owner saying, "You're the GM, you don't listen to a rookie puppy quarterback." And that probably bothered him a little bit. I think that might have been where the rift got created on that.
Yeah. That and probably the Odell Beckham Jr. saga. I think that probably was like, okay, we knew this guy was diva, and we still traded for him, and kind of went against our philosophy of using our draft picks, collecting assets. Instead you use that draft pick to go get a veteran player in Odell Beckham, who had already, we already seen the sideshow act in New York. What made you think he was going to all of a sudden behave in Cleveland? Not granted, Cleveland ain't a fun place to be any time of year, but like this guy just seems to find trouble wherever he's at. Odell Beckham. I feel like he's a head
like
case.
I said,
I feel like he's
think
a
the
loser.
era of diva quarterbacks or wide receivers is over. I've seen, but they're not anything substantial anymore. You just need to be a good receiver. You don't need to be a diva to be a good receiver anymore.
And I feel like it's more about like good quarterbacks making good receivers. Like everybody talks about, I remember how good he was with the Packers. Who the hell was Jordy Nelson before Aaron Rodgers was throwing him the ball?
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Aaron Rodgers made
I meant to gloss on this earlier. Do you think had the Pats kept AB, do you think they would have won their past game?
No, I don't, because I still don't think they'd have an answer for Derrick Henry.
Yeah. I don't either, but I do think they should have kept AB. I think getting rid of him was a mistake.
Yeah, I think that was a knee-jerk reaction, just releasing him like that. And I think that's a problem that a lot of teams are having is like they see this and they say, okay, no, we're out. Like domestic abuse, like all allegations,
which I think is
we're out on all that.
We'll do another topic on that. But first of all, allegations aren't fact. So
Exactly.
I think the NFL
needs
to stop trying to be its own law office and start whatever the law says should be applicable to what the NFL does. If someone gets charges pressed on them and they're found innocent, then why is the NFL punishing somebody? I mean, it doesn't make it's retarded. And you're right.
It's they're not found innocent; they're just found not guilty, which means because the burden of proof is to prove that they're guilty.
Yeah.
But no, I get what you mean. If it goes to court and the court says there was not enough evidence to convict, then the NFL should look at it. Well, if the law didn't have enough evidence to convict him, we don't have enough evidence to convict him of anything. So
that's what I believe in. Look, and I get it.
I'm fine with the commissioner's exempt list for guys who are being prosecuted, because I just think it's a bad look for the NFL if, like, say, example, you have a player playing in a game and then the next day having to show up for a court hearing about, like,
yeah, look, we don't want 1988 Miami in the NFL. I mean, we don't want that. So
right.
So
that's why I think the commissioner exempt list is the right way. Put them on the exempt list. Their money doesn't count against the cap. They get kind of taken off, almost like an IR situation. And It's one of those things they're not allowed to be brought back until their legal situation is taken care of.
Right. So closing out, I say we do LSU Clemson talk.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game. I think the next two number one overall picks are going to be dueling it out for the national championship on Monday night.
Who do you got? Who do you got? By how much and why? And we'll close out.
You know what? I love Joe Burrow. I've been the captain of his fandom. I love that kid. To me, he just screams he's a winner.
LSU, baby.
Trevor Lawrence does not know how to lose. He just doesn't. He's never lost a game in college football. When you can be undefeated for 2 years,
and shit. I can't believe,
and you can still get their coach.
Me and you've gone back and forth my friend like 4 years in a row. The only year I sided with you was the second year of Deshaun Watson, where I'm like, he can take him this year, and then he became a Texan, so I like it even more. Past that, I think Clemson has the experience. I think Clemson has the better coaching. But I think LSU this year has that magic of the Eagles going to the Super Bowl in 2017. I feel magic with LSU this year.
Like I said, I love Joe Burrow. I love Ja'Marr Chase, the wide receiver, and Justin Jefferson, the other receiver.
What do you think about the coach?
4 touchdowns?
I think he's going to be coach of the year in college football.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's basically after Les Miles and everybody. Les Miles inherited Nick Saban's system. That the coach at LSU had to basically rebuild it his way. And it's finally starting to pay off in the most competitive freaking section of college football. And, here's one thing I will say. Clemson convincingly beat Ohio State. Like, I felt convinced. Yeah. LSU slaughtered Oklahoma. So I really didn't get a taste of who's going to dominate who because of that being so lopsided in that LSU. First of all, I always make the case that Oklahoma shouldn't even be in the playoff because I think they have zero defense every year.
Yeah.
They can produce Heisman Trophy winners and they can produce an offense, but when it comes to defense, you might as well just count them out when it comes to playoff time. I'm going to LSU. I'm going to LSU by 1 touchdown with less than a minute in the game.
Oh, I hope you're right.
I do not think this is a blowout game. I think Clemson.
Well, I don't think it's going to be blowout either.
If Clemson won, put it this way, I wouldn't be like, oh man, I can't believe it. I'd be like, look, Clemson has the experience and the coaching. That you're going to have.
To me, that's why I'm picking them. Is because
you're going to have to take it from them. I just think LSU is playing in a style right now that they're going to take it from them.
Yeah, I will say I do think that if there's a team that has kind of epitomized that challenger role, and because like it's in a heavyweight boxing match, the challenger has to be hungrier than the champion, and they have to go out there and take it from the champion. I think LSU, there's a good chance that young team with Coach Ed Orgeron, I love what he's doing there. And first off, I could listen to him talk all day without actually understanding a single word he says because it's just hilarious.
He's got that. So
now, one of my friends made it's not funny, but like there was, about the tragedy, the tragedy that happened with the plane that crashed and the offensive coordinator daughter-in-law was on the plane the day of the playoff game, and Ed Orgeron had to tell that coach about the plane crash. And my one friend, and maybe I shouldn't rat him out for kind of making this joke about it. He's like, could you imagine that conversation, Ed Orgeron in that voice trying to explain to him what happened?
Hey, your dog died. Well, yeah, the way he talks, yeah.
There was a plane and it was coming down in the bush.
Yeah, and the plane came down and it hit every day. So I just want to tell you, I'd be like, is this a joke? Anyways, that is a sad event. That is a sad event. Another reason why I got faith in LSU. I think those kind of things are driving them right now to play harder, better. I think there's just magic with LSU this year.
I'm just looking forward to a great game. Obviously, I'm a University of Texas fan, and so I don't like Oklahoma. So I was glad when they lost.
LSU and University of Houston. Those are my teams. Yep.
Yeah. And I just don't like Ohio State. Never liked them, especially since was it 2000, 2001 or 2?
Miami game?
Robbed Miami. Yeah. And Maurice that. Yeah.
We talk all day.
So I've never rooted for Ohio State.
All right, well, close this out before we get nuts. We're going to end up going into controversies.
I know, right? We need to stop talking now. But everybody, we hope everyone had a great and safe New Year. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We'll, of course, come back next week, talk about, break down what happened in the divisional games and set up championship weekend. We'll talk all about the college football national championship game. And, yeah, everybody, we glad you could join us. Please, like all the other Phillyverse shows, we've got the Monday night show, Football Smack Talk show with myself and Ryan. Tuesday nights, you've got Ryan and Ryan on the broadcast. And then, of course, right here, Wednesday night, bringing it home, Mike Sports. And then if you're into something a little different, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, a wrestling podcast with myself and Joe. So everybody, we appreciate you checking in on us. And leave your comments, just let us know what you think of our show. I know tonight we went a little long because there was a lot to talk about. But
quote from Tony Soprano, Jesus Christ, how many times this guy got to say goodbye?
I was actually hoping to set you up for something like that. Everybody have a great night. Tune in next week.
Peace.